3, 2.
Okay, good afternoon. This is Judge Haggerty calling this meeting to order. It's a public hearing, special meeting on electoral redistricting. I want to welcome everybody here. Pam, please pull the board, please.
Yes, go ahead. What do you need?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. You take that one. Yes, I'm sorry.
Mr. Uxer.
Here.
Ms. Sanchez.
Here.
Dr. Graham.
Here.
Ms. Naheda. She's remote.
Here.
Mr. Haggerty.
Here.
Mrs. Robles will not be here this evening, and I don't believe Ms. Pena will be here either.
Okay. All right. 4.1, Pam.
Item 4.1, the Board of Trustees will hold a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public suggestions and comments on the redistricting of the single-member trustee districts. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any suggestions from the public? No?
Okay. Legal counsel has asked that I go ahead and read item 4.2. Item 4.2, the Board of Trustees will hear comments from the Advisory Redistricting Committee.
Oh,
Good afternoon, Dr. Serrata and Board of Trustees that are present and those on the web joining us. For those of you following the World Cup, the USA won today, 1-0. We move on to the 16, I believe. Again, my name's Raul Lerma. I had the pleasure working here at EPCC for 7 years. And I was honorably, I was asked to serve on this the committee for redistricting, the El Paso County Community College Public Redistricting Committee. So I had the honor of working with a great team. This was a team effort to come up with the new redistricting maps. At this time, I certainly want to thank Dr. Renteria, Cynthia Renteria. She's in transit, I guess, or traveling right now, so she can't be with us. So today I was asked to say a few words. I am co-chair, so I have that honor to open up and welcome everyone and introduce the great team that we were able to work with. Certainly Dr. Renteria led us through it. She was a great chair. And at this time, I would like to introduce those members that are present. Ms. Emma Costa. Paul Arciniega. And George Ibarra. Other members that were on the committee are Daniel Bueno, Jr., Brandon Burt, Joshua Carter Guerra, Julian Hita, Wesley Lawrence, and again, he always says, Chento Quintanilla. Chento Quintanilla was on the committee as well. It was a great team. We were able to come up with our responsibilities. Basically, in the packet, if you'll refer to the 5th paragraph, I think that summarizes what we were able to do. And I think with all our input, with the chair's leadership, we were able to come up with these maps, the map that hopefully that you will be will present for your consideration. At this time, I would like to thank a number of people that made this possible. First and foremost, Dr. Carrie Moe and her administrative staff did a great job with logistics, with food. My wife was okay with me eating dinner every day, so I was okay. Certainly want to thank our legal advisor, Francisco Ortega. She's not here, but Sherry McCall was one of our technical persons that was helping us during the committee meetings. Certainly want to thank her. And certainly want to thank a big shout out to your technical personnel that was able to do all the presentations that we had. They were there for every presentation, every forum. So a big shout out to the technical staff, the EPCC technical staff that I know I had the opportunity of working with when I was here. So thank you all. So this is a team effort, as I said. At this time, as I say, without further ado, I want to present Gunnar Sequist, who will go over the presentation. And again, thank you for your attention today.
I'm going to go ahead and read item 4.3. Item 4.3, Mr. Gunnar Sequist, Bickerstaff, Heath Delgado Acosta, LLP, will make a presentation on the redistricting plan recommendation by the Advisory Redistricting Committee and other alternative plans.
Good afternoon, board members. Dr. Serrata, very nice to see all of you again here at the conclusion of the redistricting process. And I will just, before I get started, take this opportunity to thank all of you again for giving Vicar staff and myself the opportunity to assist the college district in this process. It has been a privilege for us to be able to serve the board and also to work with this fine committee and helping them come up with their recommendation to make to the board today. And so my presentation today is just to sort of, I think, go back over some of the basics of redistricting and then also to show you the plans. I think all of you have received the report and should have had an opportunity to hopefully to see those before, but I will go through and highlight some of those for us today. And then at the end of this process, after any discussion or other input that you might like to have, sorry. I think we have an item on for adoption, so hopefully we'll be able to have a map for you today. Here again, of course, are the current trustee districts for the El Paso Community College districts. This is the map as it exists today before any changes are made, and then also as we have gotten the 2020 census data for. This is a map that's in the PowerPoint for everyone that shows the breakdown of election precincts too. Of course, this redistricting process was triggered by the release of the 2020 census. That process is meant to achieve the one person, one vote standard under the U.S. Constitution, which tells us that single member districts, such as the Board of Trustee districts here at the college, have to have approximately equal population. And as I've mentioned, what the courts have told us that means is that the rule of thumb is a total deviation from the most populous to the least populous of 10% from an ideal district. And so if we go back and just a quick refresher on the census data, what we saw from the 2020 census based on the existing districts was an overall deviation in excess of 30%. Obviously very clear case here that the district had grown out of balance over the last 10 years and needed to redistrict. And so that was the process that we have been undertaking. These are the criteria that the board adopted to guide this process, and these are the criteria that the board will adhere to, and also that the committee has done its very best to adhere to, I think, in making its recommendations. Obviously, we're using identifiable boundaries. The committee gave quite a bit of attention and interest in its plan to trying to maintain the communities of interest in neighborhoods here, and the El Paso Community College districts have used whole voting precincts. The committee worked very hard to try not to split election precincts. Based the plan on the existing districts, again, relatively equal size. I know that deviation, a very low deviation, was very important to the committee. I know a lot of work and effort was put into that and thought, as well as trying to draw some compact contiguous districts. We have maintained in the committee recommendation all incumbents in their existing districts and have drafted the plan narrowly to comply with the Voting Rights Act. Mr. Lerma did a great job of already introducing the committee members. I'll just show them to you again here. All of these folks, the committee, just for background for the board members, we met on at least 5 or 6 occasions to do drawing sessions and to discuss these plans as the committee. And then the committee also, to further the board's interest, I think, in public transparency and obtaining public input, also put together a series of public meetings that they refer to as the road show. And so we were able to go out to each of the community college campuses, put on a presentation, put these maps out to the public. And for anybody who wasn't able to actually be there in person, we're also able to record those and put them on the website for the district so that anyone who wanted to see this process and be a part of this transparent process as it went through had the opportunity to do that. So the committee really, I know it was of fundamental importance to them to make sure that this was a very open and transparent process, really worked hard to try to do that. So we had 4 or 5 of those meetings as well. And this is the plan that the committee has come together. As we went through the process, there were several iterations of this plan, but this was the plan that ultimately distilled down, and also the plan that drew some support and public comment that the committee came up with. And if you look at the map that we have here, what you will see in the red lines on the map, Those red lines demarcate the benchmark districts or the current trustee districts. And what the shading shows there is the proposed redistricting plan that the committee is recommending. And so what you'll see is District 1 doesn't change a lot. It trades a little bit of territory with 4 there at the bottom to kind of create a line between 1 and 4. District 2 changes more significantly. It gives up some population on the current south side, but that's split between districts 4 and 3 in the proposal. But then District 2 takes on a pretty good portion of what used to be District 3 going off to the east there. District 3 in this plan kind of gets pushed more centralized. District 4, as you'll recall, previously kind of ran much further down into District 7 there. I know one of the things the committee talked about and wanted to do was to try to compact District 4 a little bit more so that it wasn't as long, so that's been accomplished here. District 5 gives up a fair portion of its old territory to District 3 in the center, and then it takes on again a pretty significant piece of what used to be District 3 off to the north and the east there. District 6 gives up some of its old territory to District 5 and then takes on a good portion of District 7. And so through doing that, the committee's plan comes down to an overall deviation of 1.76%, obviously well within our 10% threshold under the federal one person, one vote standard. And again, just for harkening back to what this process was or what the goal was at the beginning, if we looked at the 2020 census numbers for the districts as they currently exist, what we saw was that the existing District 3 and 7 were heavy in population, and 4, 5, and 6 were all a little bit light. And so what the committee has done here is shift population out of 7 and 3 and then balance that across 4, 5, and 6 to get that deviation. This is the demographic breakdown. What we have here, just from a demographic breakdown standpoint, under the 2020 census and under the committee plan, you have 7 Hispanic majority districts, so that doesn't change. The numbers are really, from a demographic breakdown, the numbers don't change very significantly. I do have maps for each of the, under the proposal, for each of the individual districts. Those are here for anybody who wants to look at them, and if there are any specific questions, I'm happy to address those on a district-by-district basis, but I won't kind of go through each one in too much detail. And then, just so the committee, or the board, excuse me, has kind of an understanding of the work that the committee has done, this was kind of the illustrative plan that we had thrown out at the beginning. As I told you at that time, we always sort of start the process by putting out just a plan that kind of gets into balance with sort of the smallest amount of change possible. And so you can see the committee really did a bunch of work and tried to address some of the local concerns that they had in reaching a plan. And they're, the way we did it, it came out to 4.23 and they came out to 1.76. Both of them are within standard. But so I just wanted to show that, just to kind of show the work that the committee had done. That is their recommendation. And at this point, if there are any questions, I'm happy to take those. We can have further discussion.
What was the attendance like at your roadshow?
We didn't have a whole lot of people that came in person. We, in fact, several of the meetings, sorry to say, we didn't actually have anyone turn out. A couple of them we did, and in particular, we were very encouraged. The last meeting we did at the main campus downtown, we had a good student turnout. So we got some student participation, and they got to come and understand a little bit about the civics process of redistricting and give their input. So we were happy to have that. I do think that, you know, we also had those things online, so more people may have viewed them online, but in terms of actual turnout at the meetings in person, we didn't have a lot, which is frankly not necessarily all that unusual.
Anybody have any other questions? No?
No?
Okay.
I'll make a motion. Can I do it now, or do I have to, is there a separate item to read in?
No more discussion. Item 4.4, discussion and take possible action on the recommended plan or other alternative plans by the Board of Trustees and any amendments if necessary, and adopt the redistricting plan, rebalancing the college's single-member Board of Trustee districts based on the 2020 census.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion and I move to adopt the El Paso Community College Redistricting Committee's recommendation on the maps. So that would be my motion. Is that specific enough, Mr. Ortega? Yeah.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I was just a couple of remarks, just really quickly.
Oh, sure.
Of course, Judge. I really wanted to thank the committee. This is something that we've seen some of the other jurisdictions do. I'm a little disappointed not a lot of people showed up to the meetings, but I think what the intent and what the purpose was to make it available and make it transparent and really to bring it back to the people to make the decision on how should we redistrict. So I think that was really the intent and the idea of this entire project. And I know it takes a lot of time and effort, and I'm very grateful for everybody who served in that capacity and you all for giving your time and volunteering your time to do this. I think this sets a really good precedent, I hope, for the college in 10 years from now to do this. If it's not codified by the legislature for the committee's recommendation to automatically take effect, if we still have to go through that exercise, I hope it does. So maybe that's something we can see the legislature move towards. But I think the intent here was really to make that open and to take it out of the elected officials' hands. And so those are my comments. And again, just thank you very much for your service. And for the board as well for embarking, I think, on this exercise and trusting our fellow community members to do this. So those are my comments.
I just have a question. What's the difference between the proposed committee recommendation and the one that you all came up with?
The differences are pretty substantial. We moved just a few election precincts, again, just to get into balance. Now, the committee was taking into account their individualized knowledge of El Paso and the geography in the area and those communities. And we were not looking at that on the front end. We were just trying to give an example of how you can get the trustee districts into balance with as few moves as possible. And so the overall difference between the two plans are pretty substantial in terms of the amount of territory that actually moves and the amount of population that's moved around.
So when I was looking at the two of them, I see that on the one from the committee, there is a big change on 5.
Yes, ma'am.
And was there a reason for that? Anybody can answer.
Well, I can let the committee address their specific reasoning. I think they were trying to, in their mind, Mr. Ibarra, would you like to discuss sort of your ideas on 5?
When we looked at the first map, we saw that the growth that was happening in El Paso was to the east. So we had to move east. We had to move some like District 6 and District 5 east. So District 5 had to give up some of the central precincts in order to grow to the east. And those central precincts went over to District 3 to make it more compact there. So if you notice that some of the eastern districts on the initial plan were from District 3 that went all over the area there. And that basically was 2 distinct areas, 2 distinct communities. So we had to correct that. That was the main reason.
And so how far does District 5 go east?
If you look at the actual map itself, you can see the different precincts there. And now we have it going all the way to precinct 166, which is going to be on the right-hand side.
On the county line?
I'm sorry?
Is it on the county line?
Yes.
And is that because it's anticipated that there'll be growth there? Because there's
That
not
is where the
that
growth
many
is happening right now.
houses.
Yes, ma'am.
And the District 4, that was the best way to compact it?
Yes, ma'am. It was to, if you notice on the map itself there, it shows you where it used to be, and we actually were able to reduce the number of precincts allocated to that, and we gave them some of the precincts on the west side that were given up by District 2. District 2 used to come all the way down into the Mission Valley area, not Mission, the Current Place area, and so we had to give those to District 4, and so we could give District 2 some of the eastern precincts.
Which ones the two, the precincts that you get on these,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
it looks like on District 2, it's all airport land.
Oh, okay. Okay. Say that again?
On District 2, it looks like you just went east. It looks, I don't know where that red line on,
If you, this is the old District 2 right here. And what we did is we took these precincts away from District 2.
you know what the boundary is?
Oh, we try to keep District 2,
Go back there and look at the map, but, are there any houses or anything on the far east side of District 2? That's all I want.
Side by side's probably a good.
I mean, you have this district over here, I see the airport, and then you come down here and you put something in here in the lower, 5 has a little bit of it, but what is it?
District 60, Precinct 60, we try to keep you above Hondo Pass, but it was, when we did that, we could not give you enough population without dropping down a little bit below Hondo
I don't
Pass.
have a problem with that, I don't have a problem with the whole map, I just wanted, for my own personal,
Where you're walking.
that precinct, like you have that big one that ends with a 7, it looks like, and then you gave me one that ends with a 9. What is this straight line coming out on 3 in the middle, right there, between 3 and the beige and the green? What is that? Is that Montana?
He's talking about this line right here.
I think they're looking.
That's
for
Montana.
monuments.
Is that Montana?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that answered my question. Thank you. I didn't look at the map on the streets or whatever.
Any other
Any
questions?
discussion? Any other comments? I'd just like to thank the committee. This is a great way to do things. The county did it first. I thought they did a great job. Not that I'm real happy with a lot of things the county does, but the county did a great job, and you all did too, and thank you very much for all your time.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, so we have a motion and a second?
Are you ready for me to call the question?
Motion in a second. Call the question.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Dr. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. Naheda,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty.
Aye.
There is an item posted for an executive session. Is there a need for an executive session?
We need to go into
And
executive
adjournment is the next item.
So we're good? All right. Again, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry Pam didn't get the champagne or anything.
And thank you to the staff and all your work. I know it's a lot of work.
Now, maybe it's tend to be off target. Ms. Costa was on the board committee.
Well-
I'm just curious why she's not our handout.
Yeah, it was a mistake.
Oh, okay. I shouldn't be pointing out mistakes.